No, it's not going to work.
No, that's
It's probably better if we actually talk about a couple of things that's been going on. One subject that came up on the nonprofits recently that I brought up was this idea of whether or not there's a schism within the skeptic community.
Yes.
And I happen to think that there is, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But then it came up that there's also a schism, supposedly, in the atheist community. And there have been a number of people who've written articles lately trying to make this case. And I find it kind of laughable, because what they're identifying is a schism within the atheist community, which I would say is a sub-community of skeptics in some areas. I'll have to draw you a Venn diagram at a later date. But the schism that they're talking about is really just among the people who are atheists. What views do they have on how to address the issues? Some are more vocal, outspoken, antagonistic, relentless, as I might fall into that category. And some would prefer that we just kind of stay quiet and not try to try our best.
Be the nice atheist.
Not to offend anybody.
Right.
And I'm fine with that, in the sense that I'm fine with the idea that there are perhaps multiple approaches to discussing the issues.
Well, there should be. I mean, part of being an atheist is we're all a bunch of free thinkers. And I think some of these articles, and I've read some of P.Z. Meyer's feedback on Feringula about his opinions on some of what people are saying about supposed atheist schisms. And you're right, it's simply the case of different atheists having different ideas about how to communicate the concept of atheism and the ideas that are popular among atheists to other atheists as well as the general public. And why that should be a bad thing, people having different views and arguing them and debating them, is sort of a mystery. I think what's happening is people who are pointing at this and thinking this, haha, look, the atheists are having a schism. Or
they're manufacturing something.
Right. Well, they're thinking of atheism in terms in the same way that they would think of how either a religious group would behave, like the Episcopalians or the Catholics or the Methodists or whatever. And, how they have a schism over some of them are okay with gay priests and others aren't. It's like, well, the reason you call it a schism in those venues is because these are people working off religious dogma.
Right. There is some orthodox perspective for them to.
Same thing in political parties, where there's a party platform,
right?
And then people who deviate from the party platform are usually irritate the hardliners, and then you have that back and forth. In atheism, we don't have anything like that.
We have one thing.
Yeah, we don't believe in any gods.
There's no schism.
Yeah,
all of them, regardless of what tactic.
There's no schism about that one.
What method they're willing to sanction, or what level of discussion they're willing to approve of. They all agree on the same thing, and that's that we do not believe in a God.
That's such a common thing that you encounter are the people who aren't atheists who don't, or who are encountering the new atheism for the first time or what have you. They filter this through what they're already used to, which is they think of it in terms of being, here's just another group with its orthodoxies. And they don't really understand that it's a very different thing here. Among atheists, of course, nobody argues amongst themselves more ferociously, I think, than atheists, because we're all, we encourage free thought, challenging one another's ideas. There are no sacred cows.
By and large, what they're identifying is something that we've pointed out over and over and over again, which is that there's one and only one unifying aspect among atheists, and that is this disbelief in a God. Outside of that, you can have anything, which is why we did an entire episode, Russell and I did, on foolish atheists. People who, there's no guarantee that not believing in a God suddenly makes you rational, or that you were rational before. There's nothing along those lines at all. When you're only, when you only have one point. It's like saying we're a group of non-smokers or non-football players. Outside of that, you could have any number of positions and views. You can agree and disagree. We have people. There's no political consensus even within our small group. I mean, the ACA here in Austin, you're going to find people who are on almost any side of almost any issue, and as you spread that to a larger group or a larger collective of atheists, you're going to find that there's a lot of different categories. So the schism they're identifying is just, hey, you know what? All these people who say they don't believe in God, they don't agree on everything. Well, yeah.
Welcome to our world.
Someday they'll all agree with me, and then we'll be in a better place. But until then, until they either see the folly of their ways, we're going to disagree on a few things.
Oh, well.
Martin already is approaching agreeing with me on everything.
Well, I'm close.
And the areas where we don't agree, clearly you're mistaken.
Well, there's the thing about, KY versus Johnson's baby. Well, I'm not with you on that, but we'll just have to.
There are some areas where it's okay to disagree.
Yes, such as that.
But what they're trying to do, what's happened a lot with some of these articles is that they point to these areas of disagreement. For example, what happened within CFI. For example, Paul Kurtz was kind of ousted in something akin to a coup. If you listen to certain people tell the story.
That's interesting because I have not really been tied into what's aware of what CFI's been up to.
I would identify myself by and large as a secular humanist, but I'm not up to speed on everything that's going on there, and I don't necessarily want to touch on that. But what I'd say is that once upon a time you had Paul and some people running CFI who had a particular opinion about how they were going to approach religion, how they were going to approach these issues and discussions. And there were some people who disagreed, and now the people who disagreed are more in control of that than others. My objection isn't that that there are people who want to be a little bit more accommodationist. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to do that, that's fine.
Which position was Paul Kurtz taking?
Much more accommodationist.
Okay.
Much more of a we don't need to speak out and offend in that sense. We just need to discuss what we believe in and focus on reality and keep things focused in a sort of positive sense. And they would, and I don't want to speak for Paul or for anybody else in there, but I'm just speaking in kind of broad strokes about how they viewed some of the issues. When you had Dawkins, Hitchens, and others, and I'm including various people who've posted their videos on YouTube, and I'd have to include myself, who have been at times relentless in the way that we address the issues. It's off-putting to a lot of people, and not just the people that I'm disagreeing with positionally. It's off-putting to other people who would prefer that, no, there's got to be a nicer way to do this. And I'm fine with that. There's a guy who has a blog that I was pointed to in the last couple of weeks. Somebody was trying to get me to be a nicer person. I always like being nicer if I can. And he was talking about how he had changed his tactics and the kind of results that he'd gotten from that. And my response to that is great. I mean, if you're using a particular type of argument, approach, whatever, tactic. I don't. It's hard to make it sound like anything other than what it is. This thing just won't connect. You can go ahead and take it. It's connection timed out again.
Mm-hmm. More technical stuff.
Yeah, in the when you're, it's fine if you're getting results that way. Whatever way gets results, I'm in favor of it. What I'm not a fan of is somebody who says, no, this is the way to get results, and your way is counterproductive and wrong, and you should stop. That is where...
Especially when they have no greater criticism of it beyond, well, I find your tone offensive.
Yes.
Which atheists get a lot of, and we certainly get a lot of. And at a certain point, you kind of have to say, well, forget about my tone. My tone doesn't really matter. And if my tone is a little bit harsh or exasperated, well, maybe that's simply because, that reflects just how serious a problem I think that these issues are. So I'm being more vociferous in my objection to it. My approach has always been to adapt my responses to theists simply based on the old "you get what you give" principle. And, we, for example, get quite a lot of emails on the TV list, and we get some theists who comment on the blog as well. And some of them are nice folks, and I respond nicely to them, and sometimes we have really, really nice lengthy email exchanges. And sometimes we get flat-out pricks, and, they get the brunt of our abuse as a result of that, And so I don't really go and seek out fistfights with people, simply because, I'm interested in, shoving my ideological differences in their face. But I have often found that, look, I match what I say to,
and I'm pretty much in the same position. What I've said in response is that, on occasion I can be condescending, arrogant, rude, dismissive, offensive, any number of other things, but people tend to get as good as they give.